everyone, Lisa Tamati here. Welcome to a new edition of Pushing the Limits. Today I have Liam Pingree, who is the CEO and founder of Neuronic, and he is a repeat guest on the show. And we are talking about photobiomodulation in regards to neurodegeneration and so photobiomodulation is like red light therapy or infrared light therapy, and he has developed a device along with his company called the New Radiant 1070 that uses 1070 nanometers as its therapeutic range that it uses for things like Alzheimer's, concussions, Parkinson's, just brain optimization, and training your brain to be more focused, that type of thing, and all of the incredible studies and how red light works, etc., etc., etc. I've done quite a number of podcasts now on red light therapy in general. I'm a huge fan of it. I have it in my clinic in Taranaki, the panels, and the New Radiant is coming shortly, and I'm really excited for this technology and how it can help people with dementia and Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis and Alzheimer's, so especially. So, and post-concussion syndrome as well. So I hope you enjoy this episode. We've got an avalanche of these things coming at us, so you really need to know about these things. And the exciting thing is this device that they've been working on for a number of years now, and this is a new iteration, and it's cheaper and more accessible for people. So that's always exciting because some of the stuff that we like to get is very expensive, and this is now coming down in price. So I hope you enjoy the interview with Liam. It's over 11 o'clock in the evening in Dubai where he is, so it was very kind of him to jump on a show at such a late an hour. Before we head over to the show, Avum Labs is now launched, and we have our flagship product Rejuvenate Pro on the market, and you can check it out on my website. If you go to shop.lisatamati.com, you'll find Avum Labs and Rejuvenate on there, or you can go to our main website avumlabs.co.nz and check out all the science and the details. And I encourage you to go and listen to the couple of episodes that we've already released about this formulation and some of the ingredients in the formulation. It's a real powerhouse when it comes to reversing immune aging and giving you back the function of our younger immune system. That was the goal that we set out to do 2 years ago. There's over 15 years worth of clinical research behind this product. We have a world-class scientific advisory team, and we've been working very hard for the last couple of years to get this to the market, and it really works. It's a foundational immune product, and you think of the immune system as just being something that you don't want to get the flu or a cold in winter, but the immune system is so much more. It's at the basis of all aging, and all the 12 hallmarks of aging are influenced by the state of your immune system. And as we get older, our immune system ages, and we get something called immunosenescence, and you'll hear me talking about this over and over again in different episodes that we'll be covering the subject on. Now, I encourage you to also go and listen to the episode I did with Dr. David Furman, who has been studying immunosenescence for the last 15 years in relation to how it affects your rate of aging and really why it affects all of the hallmarks of aging. So our formulation, Rejuvenate Pro, go and check it out. This is something that you should all be on, and it's a very safe product. Now, we do say don't take it if you're pregnant, and don't take it for children, just to be on the super safe side. But it is very easily digestible. It's going to protect your tight junctions in your stomach. It helps with transfer factors. It helps with growth factors. It helps with immunoglobulins, your tight junctions, your barriers in your body. It is a real powerhouse, and it combines 4 key ingredients: immune defense protein, and Immunel, which is a cholesterol whey extract, and immune defense proteins is a suite of 50 bioactive whey proteins, and then native kawakawa, which has traditionally been used by the Māori for centuries as a tonic for so many things, for gut health, for immune health, for cellular health. And we also have carnosic acid, which is a very powerful ingredient to upregulate your own endogenous antioxidant capacity, as does kawakawa. And it also has antimicrobial, antibacterial properties, and is also very protective from a neuro perspective from neurodegeneration. So go and check that all out at avumlabs.co.nz, or head over to my website, lisatamati.com, hit the shop button, and you can buy our Rejuvenate Pro there. Get on the subscription for this because it's the sort of thing you want at the base level of your supplement regime to help cover all the things. Now we're coming into winter, even better time to do it. But if you're dealing with autoimmune or anything like that, gut health issues, then this is something that you want to be paying attention to, learning a bit about the science. Right, without further ado, now over to Liam Pingree of everyone, and welcome into Pushing the Limits. This week I have my friend Liam Pingree to guest, and you may remember that name. He's been a guest before on the show, so welcome back to the show, Liam. Fabulous to have you with an updated information, and we're going to be talking red light and red light helmets and photobiomodulation and all of that good stuff. So Liam, what have you been up to this past year since we connected last time?
Yeah, thanks for having me. We actually had some exciting events. Only yesterday, we actually had the official launch of our new product, which I'm going
Ah,
to be able to show and tell you on this call. It's been a busy year for sure. We had our team summit where we flew everyone into Istanbul only last week as well. So
wow,
that was 20 team members getting to meet a lot of them for the first time. So
wow,
really
that,
exciting to get to work together in place because we are a remote company.
that's amazing. Yeah, I know what it's like when you're trying to, coordinate your team and they're all over the world. It's pretty difficult, hey? So to actually get together, I bet that was great. And last time when we talked, this is all for everybody listening. This is about red light therapy and photobiomodulation or low-level laser therapy, whatever you want to call it. And you have a company called Neuronic, Neuradiant, or Neuronic is the company, and Neuradiant is the device. Can you give us a bit of a snapshot so that for people that haven't listened to the first episode, get a bit of a picture of how did Neuradiant, Neuronic happen? How did this all come
Yeah.
about?
So Neuronic is a company that develops photobiomodulation devices for the head specifically for people's brain. And we developed this company over 5 years ago. And the product, the Neuradian 1070, as you referred to, has been on the market. This is the fourth year.
Mm-hmm.
We officially released the Neuronic Lite yesterday, and that's our second product. We can get more into that later. But essentially, a long time ago, I had seen this video on Facebook of a guy called Max Burr,
Max, yeah.
and you're familiar with him, but he essentially had Parkinson's and he noticed the tablets weren't working anymore as well as they should. So the side effects were coming back, and he seen this trial done on mice, and in the study they shone light on the mice and they got better. So Max thought, well, if it works for them, why not me? So he went to his local doctor and he asked him the question of, hey, why can't I use this and help with my Parkinson's symptoms? And the doctor said, under no certain circumstances should you use this. There's no human trials. And this is years ago.
Biohacker.
Max, being the guy he is, he did it anyway.
Mm.
And in the video, it reported 9 out of 10 symptoms improved. Max is playing the piano again. And
Wow.
when I seen this, it was like on Facebook, I was like, oh, this is fake news. This no way is this true. Light therapy.
Yeah.
And so naturally, I went to Google Scholar and I started looking up all the research, and I was blown away because not
Yeah.
only was there research on Parkinson's, but like such an array of different other conditions and symptoms. And I thought there really is something here. Um, I was in college at the time, so I kind of parked the idea up between kind of study abroad and then having actually a family member go through cancer and eventually having memory loss issues to the point now she couldn't recognize you anymore.
Yeah.
That affected me. So when the kind of time came around COVID, knowing about this idea and how it helps someone with Parkinson's, having this personal story and kind of just being a bit entrepreneurial, I thought, this is something I want to do. I looked back at the research, like, I don't know if it was a couple of years later, and the amount more on PubMed, NIH database
Loaded,
had just
eh?
exploded. And
Yeah.
it was only a few months ago that it hit over 10,000
Wow.
publications when you put in the search term photobiomodulation. So I think it's just a fascinating time, and there's so much more research coming out. So this is essentially where the company started. I then sent the same video to Marvin Schoner, my co-founder. He had the same idea. He thought, hey, we can develop a helmet here that's more accessible, more affordable, put in some research and development, and make this a device that everyone can use at home.
Wow. I mean, what a vision, and there's such a need, and we've talked about it on the last show, like we've got an avalanche of neurodegenerative diseases, like Alzheimer's is coming at us like a bus, like the amount of people is just growing exponentially. We've got an aging population around the world. We've got,
Hmm.
Alzheimer's is on the rise.
Right.
So is Parkinson's, so is multiple sclerosis and dementia of all types. So we really desperately need answers, and billions of dollars. And I've interviewed many scientists and doctors at the forefront of research in brain rehabilitation, obviously because I have a family member with some issues, shall we say, and am just blown away by the amount of research that has been done now, and that it's not being translated into the local clinics, right? So that people here in
Yeah.
New Zealand, in my hometown, when they get a diagnosis of Alzheimer's, they think it's all over. They think this is the end of the road. They think with Parkinson's, maybe they've got a couple of years and then it's the end of the road. And it's so like sad because there is so much more research than what they know about. And so it's my mission is to try to bring that research and get people like you that are at the cutting edge doing this sort of stuff and developing these incredible technologies to share so that we can hopefully lower the suffering, because the suffering is
Right.
horrendous. Like having lived with someone for 10 years now with brain damage and of various sorts, from aneurysms and strokes and brain cancer and
Yeah.
all of these things, I know the strain on the family. I know, I've lived it. If I can help prevent people or even reverse some of this and, have people have longer, healthier lives with their brain intact, this is gold, right? And so this is a non-invasive way too, because a lot of the drugs that have been developed are horrifically, like, they've spent billions and gotten basically nowhere because they've
Right.
been up the wrong tree, basically. And I've interviewed people like Dale Bredesen and things at the forefront, and Dan Goodenow, and there's just millions and billions of dollars actually being wasted on pharmaceuticals to rip out the amyloid plaques and stuff. And we're not,
Mhm.
and we have at our fingertips this thing, red light therapy, photobiomodulation, that is doing incredible things when you start to research. And like you said, there's 10,000 papers studying various things. There's human studies, there's animal studies.
Yeah.
So what is red light doing on a cellular level? And I know you're not a red light or photobiomodulation scientist per se, but you've been in the
Mm.
space for years. You know all of the big players in the space. You know all the research. Tell us what's sort of
Yeah.
happening on a cellular level in the brain. How does it actually affect the brain? How can light affect anything?
Yeah. Well, I think the simplest way to explain this is thinking about it from the sun, and we can get down to the cellular level after. But the sun's light, actually 50% of the sun's light is near infrared light. And at certain times of day, it can actually penetrate through the atmosphere better. So through the different angles. Usually it's at sunrise and sunset. So people typically are not getting outside as much as they used to in the past. So they're actually having a deficiency, seasonal
Affective
defective
disorder.
disorder.
Exactly.
They're usually experiencing a lack of sunlight. So other things on the planet, everything grows and gets energy, like plants, trees, from the sun, and we're just not getting enough of it. So what we've done with this helmet, it's not all that innovative because it's actually a natural source. It should be something that you're getting naturally from the sun anyway. Of course, it's more concentrated when it's applied directly, as close as it is, and you can add pulsing and different things. Okay, it's a bit more advanced, but essentially it's just giving the body what it needs, giving the brain what it needs, that natural near infrared light to actually react with the mitochondria to produce more ATP. And that's what
Mhm.
it's doing on a cellular level. So when you shine your phone and you have the light on it and you put it like through your finger, your phone, or sorry, your finger glows red.
Yep.
It's visible light that you can obviously see, but with the near infrared light, it's at a further level on the spectrum. So the near infrared are actually invisible to the human eye. When you turn on the device, you won't actually see any of these lights. We've actually put an indicator light inside, and the light is able to shine through the skull and actually target the cells inside, targeting the mitochondria to start this reaction and producing more ATP. So it's increasing the blood flow, it's increasing your cellular energy and reducing inflammation. And when you were talking earlier about the rise of Alzheimer's and all these other diseases, well, actually, it's a symptomatic issue where people are like eating unhealthier diets that are usually with more processed food and higher sugar, and it's building up all this inflammation.
Yeah.
And that inflammation then just tries to get out in so many different streams, and that's Alzheimer's, it's Parkinson's, it's other
Yep.
issues.
Yep.
So I think it's all related to the fundamental things that we're often forgetting. And we have the labels on the different conditions, but essentially, once you reduce that inflammation, you give the body back the energy that it needs to really function. You're kind of alleviating all the different conditions at once. You're just becoming back to the healthier self that you once were.
That's so cool because I interviewed Dr. David Furman, and he is a professor at the Stanford University in the Buck Institute, director of the 1000 Immunomes Project. And I interviewed him because we were working on a immune formulation for a company, my company, Avum Labs. That we have a longevity biotech company. And he has spent 15 years on immunology. And the thing that they came up with is the biggest influence is the immune system going awry as we get older, and the
Mhm.
aging or immunosenescence is at the core of all of the hallmarks of aging. So we're going at a level lower, if you like, or higher, however you want to see it, of the hallmarks. So rather than tackling each one of the hallmarks of aging, he says,
Right.
let's get the immune system going right because we are going to affect all 12 at once, and
Mhm.
that's it, going back to that pathways, right? I totally agree. When I'm working with a client and they come and they say, I've got Parkinson's disease, I've got multiple sclerosis, I've got whatever, that's a label for me that does not tell me what is actually happening. Like it is the end effect, the symptomology of what's happening. But at the
Right.
basis is a dysfunction at the cellular level, and it's inflammation, and it's systemic chronic inflammation that is causing all of these diseases. And that's what Dr. Furman and his team came up with as well. Systemic chronic inflammation is the base of all of these aging
Yeah.
related diseases. So if we can tackle it at that level, and that's what's so exciting about red light and photobiomodulation, is that it attacks it at that level. It's lowering inflammation. So we have chromophores on our cells that can receive light, right? So, and it helps the electron transport chain produce more ATP. And often we have mitochondrial dysfunction when we have these diseases. And often it's, the complex 1 and 2 that has issues. And so this is sort of bypassing all of that, going to that cytochrome C oxidase part of the electron transport chain and producing more energy and lowering inflammation and lowering these cytokines of inflammation, all of these sorts of things. So this is like without it being a drug and without it having any downsides, really, and this near infrared range. So tell us what nanometers are classified as in the near infrared versus the red light ranges, and
Yeah.
what
So
do the different nanometers do?
So typically in the red, you see kind of maybe a 650 and lower in the 650 to kind of where we are at the 10 or 1100 is
Mm-hmm.
near infrared. And then you get into the infrared and far infrared after that. So the difference that we've seen typically is red is better on the dermal level. So it doesn't
Yep.
penetrate as far. So it's helping with like a lot more skin
Skin,
conditions.
collagen. Yep.
Um, exactly, everything like that. And then you have the kind of near infrared range, which can actually penetrate further. And a lot of research came out with the 810 nanometers.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think
Mm-hmm.
it's very efficacious. And it's why a lot of research was done on it. But then they thought, hey, that was the peak of like where the penetration could go with actually having these reactions until it was kind of found in the 1064. And sometimes it's rounded to 1070. So you'll see
Yep.
research on the two.
Mm-hmm.
They found actually it can penetrate further.
Mm.
And a study done by Hanley Liu and Tyrrell et al. Showed that actually not only can the 1070 penetrate further, but it can have longer lasting effect. And
Wow.
that's why we use that one in our device,
Yep.
going off that kind of research. I think both wavelengths, I think all light therapy, I'm a very big advocate for all light
Oh,
therapy,
like, yeah,
but
me
some
too.
seem to have certain effects that others have, but maybe just not as much of. So it's really interesting time, and I think we need to have more cross comparisons looking at the wavelengths. And we could get into a whole nother topic about dosage
Yeah,
and
dosing
measuring
frequency.
and how do you even know? Because like even when you put the devices on and you think, hey, I'm measuring this one and this one, and someone said, hey, this is what the output is on that one device, go test it with another few devices and you might get a different answer. And this is
Mm,
what we're finding in the industry.
mm.
Actually, the hardest part is to measure the light and get a very accurate number that everyone can agree on. I remember we did this as a workshop at the summit last week, and we split up in teams and we had 5 different measurement devices, and we
Wow.
all got different numbers. There was
Wow.
no one number that was the exact same. So it goes to show we got averages, and you could put together that, hey, we had some consistency, but there was no number that was the exact same.
Yeah, this is, and it is, there's so much research that needs to be done because of all these different nanometers, because of
Mhm.
the pulsing, which we can get into a little bit later about when you turn the light on and off and have a pulse
Yeah,
situation and brain entrainment and all of that. And then you've got, the actual power of the light itself
exactly.
but the 1064 1070, that range goes deepest into the tissues, which when you're dealing with the brain, like we think
Hmm.
of the brain like it's in this head of ours, and we've got hair and we've got this thick skull,
Yeah.
you think, how can it penetrate through the skull and through your hair? How does it? And why is the 1064 1070 that much more powerful when it comes to that? Getting going deeper into the brain, into the deeper areas of the brain.
Yeah, I actually don't know like specifically why that wavelength is. I just believe it's a longer wavelength, and through the physics of it, it
Yeah.
just manages to actually penetrate further. But I don't have another answer to tell you
It
exactly why
Yeah.
that
And I
can
think
actually
it's the
penetrate.
water, it's something to do with the water. It actually interacts with the water level, the water too, doesn't it, when it's at that 1070 range? More so
Yeah,
than the 8-10 sort of range, from what I understand. So there's a water, and that conducts it further into the brain, from the
that's what.
research I've read.
Yeah, there's a professor, Paul Chazot, and he has a great webinar on this. And I do recall him talking about that the water acts as like a
Yeah.
magnifying glass inside the
Yeah.
skull. There's so much water inside the brain, so it actually makes it more effective. But I don't really know the full details
Yeah.
of how that happens and
I
the
have to try and
breakdown of
get
it.
Paul on the show. That'd be good, wouldn't
Yes,
it?
yes,
Or
you should.
Professor
You should.
Hamlin, or one of these other luminaries in the space. I have managed to get Dr. Lou Lim, and that was really awesome, from Violight a couple of years ago. But there's a handful of professors and
Yeah,
scientists that are
I think
really at the cutting edge of this. So,
Michael Hammond would be happy to come on the podcast, I
oh
believe. He's on
wow!
our scientific advisory board, so we can
Oh,
actually
hook
put
me
you in
up.
touch with him. And he can
Okay.
definitely go way further into the science
I
than
love
I
I love
can.
geeking out, right? So yeah, please hook
Yeah.
me up.
And I think it's great as well because we have these experts on the team. And this is why it is a team, because we all have our fields of
Yeah,
knowledge.
absolutely, absolutely. And you're the visionary behind the whole thing. That's the most important thing, really, because you've got to have the researchers, but you've got to have the person who wants to make this thing in the first place and has the drive and the determination. So well done. And you've iterated. So last time we spoke, um, one of the problems is the cost of these helmets, right? And
Right.
as with all technologies, they start out hugely expensive and they get cheaper over time. Tell us what you've been doing on that front, because when we spoke last time, I think it was around the 3,500 US dollars or somewhere
Yeah.
thereabouts, which is a great impediment for a lot of people to get this device. You've been
Yeah.
working really hard because you want to democratize this accessibility for this device. What have you been doing on that front? And also tell us, what is the new model about, and show us the new model.
Yeah. Okay, great. So just to recap on the last one, the previous device was the Neradian 1070, and it's still a very good device. People are still purchasing that one over the new one because it comes with a control box, and you can have section control, meaning you could turn on the lights just at the front of the helmet, the back, the left, or the right. So different areas. And it also comes with a 30-minute free consultation. That goes for 3,400.
Hmm.
So clinicians typically have loved that, and at-home users have liked it. But sometimes what we have heard is, hey, there's so many wires, or there's a big control box, so it's not the easiest to move around with. So we built a consumer advisory board, We had people that we emailed, anyone that had bought the device, to fill out a kind of survey. We did interviews, and then we've built this group of people that are the voice of the people, if you will. And
Wow.
they've been giving us all this different feedback. We have a call every now and then, and we'll hear firsthand what they've experienced, why they got the device, what was the biggest pain points, what were the best bits. And what we've been able to do is obviously produce a new device. You said cost at the start, and we've managed to reduce the cost. And this is the device. So this is the
Go and
Neuronic
watch this
Lite.
on YouTube for those that are listening on the podcast. We want to actually see the helmet. But Liam's showing us it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that looks
so here's
space age. Space age
it
helmet.
is kind of space age. And what we've done on the back, what you can kind of see here is there's further coverage so it can
Yeah.
target the cerebellum on the back. So if I
Oh,
actually put it on, you can see there that it's like going down
yeah.
quite low in
Oh,
comparison to the
that's
last.
gold because the cerebellum is well, that's an
Right,
important one for mum. So I'm glad about that.
exactly. And so this is how easy it is to use, right? You have the USB-C in the back. That
Mm-hmm.
USB-C is literally plugged into this little portable battery pack.
Mm-hmm.
So I just plug that back in, button on the side,
And that's it.
turns it on,
Yeah.
and the
Mm-hmm.
second button is a quick start. So if I press that,
Mm-hmm.
3 bleeps, and you'll see
Yep.
inside the helmet turns
Wow.
on.
Yep.
That
And
white
you've got
light
it
is actually an indicator light.
that it's
So it just
going.
tells you that it's
Yeah, because you
operating.
can't see it, like it's not in the visible spectrum. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. And so that's working right now. And then you can press the button again and it pauses the program and you can turn it off. It's really as simple as that.
Wow.
Inside, you also have an adjuster. So this is like a bike helmet adjuster. You can literally screw this
Yep.
and unscrew it, and it basically just pulls
But
this
different.
frame
Mm-hmm.
so it fits your head. There's a
Wow.
foam pad on the back and on the front as well, so it's quite comfortable to wear.
Oh,
And we've
amazing.
had people pretty much wear it while they were doing yoga upside down, and it hasn't even fallen off. I'm not suggesting that one does that, but you can if you're that type. So it's really easy to move around. This is the whole setup. You can plug it into a main or a wall adapter as well if you want and you prefer. We have two cords, two USB-Cs, so one's longer than the other. And inside the device, then again, there's 300 LEDs.
Mm-hmm.
In the previous generation, there was 256.
So it's
Now,
powerful. Wow.
yeah, and we would say it's about 2 to 3 times as powerful as the previous device. Why? Not because there's more LEDs, but actually because we've inserted 9 ultra LEDs. So there's different LEDs that are circled in
Mm-hmm.
here
Can see them.
that
Yep.
indicate ultra. And those ultra ones actually have 20 times as more power as the normal LEDs. And that's
Wow.
why there's a lot more. Um, with this device, not only is it more powerful, and ironically, we've called it the Neuronic Lite, but it can connect with your phone. So if you do connect it with the phone, you have an app, and in the app, what you can do is once you start a session, you can actually log and record your session. So each person has their individual account, and you can see I've just used the Glow program for 10 minutes, or I've just used Focus, and then it keeps a log for you, so you can see exactly when you use it.
Wow.
You can also adjust the time, the intensity, and the pulse rate, all via the app, creating custom programs that you can use and save. So we've made it really effective that way. And
Wow.
with that, we have a learn section, and we also have the ability to do research now. So we have the Promise 10, which is a standard questionnaire to see how people are getting on. There's 10 set questions. They rate on a scale of 1 to 5 or 10. And with those answers, they do the quiz weekly. And over time, we can see the improvements that people are having with the app, or sorry,
Wow.
the device.
With it. Yeah. That's amazing from a consumer like from a research and development point of view. What a brilliant because we've been looking at ways to get feedback from customers for our companies, and how do we do that? It's hard. You've built it into the app. That's pretty clever. So
Yeah,
that you can actually do that on a weekly basis, get feedback from your clients, how they're actually doing.
exactly.
Because this is the thing, right? A lot of people don't, and I see this not only with neurodegeneration, but across the board, they forget how bad they were, and
Yes.
so they don't think like they think, oh, I'm not that much better. But if you do
Yeah.
a really in-depth questionnaire, or you do something with based on symptomology and things, then you see the difference, right? And then they're
Yeah.
scoring, then you can look at different scores. I use different questionnaire systems to get that sort of feedback sometimes. And it surprises me. The human brain is wired for negativity, sort of thing. We forget immediately when we've made a gain, we just see what we haven't got. And so it's
Yeah.
really good to see the progress, and I did this with mum in the beginning when she had her aneurysm, because I was recording and videoing and, doing that type of recording in diaries and things like that.
Yeah.
When I got, excuse me, when I got frustrated, I would look back over that old footage and go, oh, hell, we've come a long way. But in the moment, you're
Right.
like, why am I not getting
Yeah.
anywhere? But you've got to do that. You've got to remind yourself. So I think it's really, really crucial to use that feature of it and use that app to get that feedback, because especially with something like neurodegeneration, and you have good days and you have bad days and you don't, it's quite hard to, give us an absolute measure, but that over time your brain's not functioning like it was and you can't remember,
Exactly.
and this is like, I also think, like, for prevention, this is a really good thing to, or if you're like me and you want to be optimal and you want to be firing on all cylinders, you want your brain absolutely in peak condition, for the work that you're doing or whatever, that takes a lot of brain power. Having this
Right.
proactive approach is really, really gold. And at the price point now, just repeat the price point now. So,
Yeah.
it's
It's this time it's 1,795. So it's
one
actually
thing.
nearly
Yeah,
half
wow,
the price
half
of
the price.
our predicate device.
That is amazing in the space of a year. Well done. That's just awesome, because this is about democratizing health, right? And so many things, cost a fortune. And yes, that's still an investment for a family to do. But
Hmm.
you know what it costs to put a person in a Alzheimer's unit, like a dementia unit? Over here, it's like $8,000 a month. And that has to come out
That's
of the family's budget. That's what people don't actually know. Like, if you put your loved one in one of these dementia units, that's what you're going to be paying, you know.
mm,
And then the care
yeah,
is not what you want for your loved one either, you know. So
yeah,
so this is a very cheap investment when you put it in that sort of perspective. So
yeah.
even if you're
And I think
having any sort of, degenerative signs, get in now.
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not even the cost. It's actually, I truly believe if this was sold for 10,000, and someone bought it and seen the results, it's worth every penny. I've just
Absolutely.
come off a call before this with someone that actually was talking. They had submitted a testimonial for the website, and I had an interview, and we'd actually already spoke with Christina, and she doesn't mind sharing the story. But her dad went under surgery for some back injury quite some time ago, and after the surgery, he just wasn't himself. Right before it, doing
Yep.
bills on his laptop online,
Yep.
89 years old.
Yep.
After surgery, a ghost.
Yep.
And you have that stage, within the 24 hours, maybe you're coming off the drugs, the painkillers, everything like that. But this was a completely different story. And Christina realized there was something up. And she had tried pretty much everything, natural foods, vitamins, magnesium, making sure there was no toxins in the environment, everything like that. And, a few months, she went down the rabbit hole of photobiomodulation, looking at everything, found the company, started using the Neuronic device, and then after that, realized after 1 month, he started coming back. 2 months, things were like getting to the stage where he was joking again, watching the news and the TV. And the
Awesome.
third month, he was putting the device on his own head, using all the controller and making sure he was using it daily, which in this at the start was just kind of had to be told how to use it and like given it and put on the head. So to see that recovery in such a short amount of time, I
It's cool.
don't think you can put a price on that.
No, you
And
can't. You can't. You
I
can't.
I know it's still like an investment and you're a bit unsure and you never really know. It's like trying anything for the first time. But honestly, when you hear kind of people coming to you and saying those things,
Yep.
it's really moving.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I mean, I've seen Mum's Brain come back, and I've used different devices, and I'm about to get this new one from you guys. And it's game changing. And I've got colleagues who are using the Neuronic, Neuradiant, with their parents, and it's just been game changing for them. So, there are testimonials up the wazoo. And I think it's it just gives you that quality of life. And who wants to lose their brain? It's just like they call it the long goodbye, because you're losing your loved one inch by inch. And surgery is a major insult to the brain for all of us, by the way. And it's a brain injury of sorts. People think of
Mm,
brain injuries only being like, when you hit your head somewhere or you're in an accident, but brain injuries come in all sorts of forms. They can come in the form of viruses and pathogens. They can come in the form of like leaky gut, getting out all those pathogens into the bloodstream and affecting the brain. It can come from toxins. It can come from heavy
mm,
metals. It can come from, the buildup of amyloid plaques and the things that we know cause those sorts of things. But these are all brain injuries that are all going to
yeah.
be helped in some way, shape, or form by this device. And you know what I'm excited about, because I'm a go too far person, is stacking this device with some absolute key other players like plasmalogens are one of my favorite things of Dr. Day and Goodenow that really help the brain heal, regrow
Mhm.
neurons, remyelinate the sheath. Now you put those two together, and
Yeah.
this is where I think stacking really could have some benefits with things like that, with things like hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which obviously I've got a clinic, and you stack all of those things up, and then you start to
Mhm.
see massive results. And I've seen them with my mum over the last decade, losing her completely, like nobody home, gaga, like a baby,
Mhm.
to fully functional, getting a driver's license, to losing her again through brain cancer, through having brain surgeries and so on, getting back, then having E. coli, then having hip fractures, each one of
Oh
these
my
an
God.
operation, like on and on and on. The latest bout last month was sepsis 3 times because she had a port cath inserted, and she got sepsis because the port attracts different bacteria, and it got infected, and so she went into sepsis 3 times within a month. Now usually I would lose her every
Mm.
time, like in the past, every time she got any type of infection, a UTI, anything like that, she would go what I call offline. Like she would be like,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
And when the infection was raging, why? Because she had no reserve capacity in the brain. Now, because of
Mhm.
all of the things I do, including the red light, including the hyperbaric, including progesterone nasal sprays and peptides and, plasmalogens
Yeah.
and all of these things, we didn't lose her. That was interesting, right? And she was in ICU with sepsis, and we didn't lose her cognitively. So that showed that the resilience of her brain was coming back, right? And there's always something else that I'm looking for and researching, and
Right.
I'm just so stoked to be able to get this for her, because I think that will be the next level. We've had an 18 device, that we've been using, but this one is going to go next degree. And when you stack these things together, the different, supplements and therapies, you can get extraordinary results. And I have got extraordinary results, like
Yeah.
absolutely. This is an N of one, unfortunately, not a clinical study, and nobody could replicate exactly what I've done, because it's
Yeah. It's
fucking
so
off the
unique and there's so
chart.
many.
Like
Right, right.
honestly,
Yeah.
like honestly,
Have you
what I've
tried
done.
methylene blue?
What's that?
Have you tried methylene blue?
Oh, a huge fan of methylene blue, and
Okay.
it operates similar to the red light, right? So methylene blue, yes, she's been on that for the last year and a half, and that's kept the UTIs pretty much at bay. Like we were getting constant UTIs, interestingly enough. And that the methylene blue actually, and she's on it twice a day now. I'm on it for athletic performance, and methylene blue, of course, and red light therapies have crossover because they bypass those first two uh, complexes in that mitochondrial electron chain. Yeah,
Yeah. Could
yeah,
you explain that further to me? Because and I know you're interviewing me here, but
yeah.
I'm super interested in like the methylene blue part because I've had a few friends actually talking about it. I've
Oh
tried it
yeah.
once. I actually don't know how it works
Oh, well,
simultaneously with
it's
the
actually
red light.
similar. Well, it's similar because it's bypassing those first two complexes, right? So it's producing more ATP, just like
Hmm.
the red light therapy does. So it's getting past that. When you have mitochondrial dysfunction, it's usually in those first two complexes. that you have the
Right.
issues. So you're bypassing those issues. And this is off the top of my head. I'd have to go and read. I will send you a couple of lectures that are brilliant on methylene blue, from Dr. William Clearfield, who's done a lecture on it. Just absolutely brilliant. What it doesn't do is more the point. Athletic performance. So you're going to get more ATP, you're going to get better athletic performance. It's antibacterial, antimicrobial, antioxidant. I use it for the UTI situation, which a lot of elderly people face, because it collects in the urethra and stops the adherence of the bacteria. That's off the top of my head, so I have to go and check that. But that, and you get blue wee, so your wee turns bright blue, which
Right.
is normal. So don't panic about that. But that's actually showing that it's gathering there and getting rid of the bacteria there and keeping it at bay. It was the original antibiotic before antibiotics. And then once we had antibiotics, of course, methylene blue got shoved to the side because it's cheap and it's easy to do, and it can't have that. We've got to have the new shiny antibiotics, which of course now we're having issues with antibiotics, right? So
Yeah.
some places that are more enlightened are going back to it. It was originally used, I think, for malaria as well. Don't quote me on that one, but it's they use it in operations as well to tell the surgeons which they pour it on surgical areas to tell them which places where the mitochondria are, because and they use it for thyroid, for example, when they're doing thyroid operations, so that they can actually see what's what,
Mm.
and because it stains different tissues differently, and so that it helps them differentiate. So there's a lot of uses for it. It's also used in
Yeah.
sepsis and sepsis cases. So yeah, we used it. Yeah, it's a amazing thing that you need to look into. Yeah. And
Okay.
Dr. Scott Scher is another expert on methylene blue. So I've had him on the show a couple of times. He explains it way better than me. So I'll send you a couple of resources to listen to. And for people listening, if I've piqued their interest in methylene blue, go and have a look at those. I'll put that in the show notes too with Dr. Scott Scher. Yeah. So yeah, but similar, and they're all in that oxidative medicine family, right? You've got ozone, you've got red light therapy, hyperbaric, and I believe methylene blue sort of fits in there as well because of this
Right.
electron transport chain and the mitochondrial piece of the puzzle. So they're
Yeah.
all sort of related, and vitamin C infusions as well.
Mm. It was interesting when you were talking about the methylene blue being used to like target in surgeries. I actually recall, and I don't know if it was methylene blue, but it sounds like it could be in this case. There was a study recently put out where they were showing people that were going under brain surgery,
Mm-hmm.
they put the dye in, maybe
Mm-hmm.
methylene blue, and actually they were using it in this case to see the lymphatic drainage system.
Oh wow.
So I think,
Yeah.
lymphatic has been around for quite some time. Everyone understands that. But then when it goes obviously up the neck and into the brain, and that region is called the glymphatic system. And it's very interesting for us as a company because what has been recently shown is red light therapy or near infrared light therapy is actually accelerating the process of this lymphatic drainage.
You're kidding me.
And research is suggesting that the lymphatic drainage actually occurs naturally overnight, so while you're sleeping. So if you're improving the lymphatic drainage with the near infrared light by increasing the width of the vessels where all the toxins are flowing out of, which is shown in this study through the dye, then in essence you're going to have a deeper and a better sleep
And you're
because
going
your
to get rid of
body
all the debris. Like
exactly
this
yeah.
is one of the major issues that you piqued my interest, because one of the major issues that I've never been able to get on top of is that mum has hydrocephalus, which is water on the brain, and she's not draining properly. So she's not clearing
Mm,
her lymphatics. And as you get older, your lymphatic system, your glymphions, I think they're called, don't contract properly, and they don't have that pumping effect that you have when you're younger.
right.
And this is one of the reasons why a lot of the debris can stay
Mm,
up in the brain, from how I understand it. And again, layperson on this, but I've been looking for ways to to improve the lymphatic clearance. Like I make mum sleep on her left side because that's better
Right.
clearance. I,
Right.
do progesterone, nasal progesterone up the nose at night time
Mhm.
to try to help get that water out of the brain, because when we can see on her scan, she's got this big like a lake up there. We've all got
Yeah.
some water in these ventricles, and forgotten the names of the parts of the brain, but they are enlarged in her case, and that's making her vestibular system all out of whack, because it's like having a lake in your brain that's
Right.
not
Yeah.
not working right. So she's like a drunk. She's not drunk. She wishes she probably was, but she's not. But she walks like she's drunk, you know?
Right.
Like, we've all been drunk before. We all know what that's like when you're like, oh, I can't get my balance. And that's what life's like for her on a 24/7 basis. And so she
Wow. No,
needs
that's incredible.
constant. Yeah,
I think what I'll have to do is send you on the research that I've seen
please.
on this
Yeah.
topic. And for people, like, there is arguments for and against using light therapy at nighttime. For some people, it gives a bit more energy, so they
Mm,
feel like they're more awake. So we often recommend not to use it kind of after sunset.
mm,
However, some people have argued that, hey, it's increasing your melatonin production, so it's actually putting
mm.
you in a deeper sleep. And also, we've had some users experience putting on the helmet and falling asleep because it
Oh,
puts them in that restful kind of state. Now, we usually pulse the light at 10 when it's
yeah,
those kind
10
of states
hertz.
where it's
The
low.
alpha. Is that the
Um,
alpha state, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, so it's usually like a lower pulsation, trying to put them in that calmer kind of state, or else just continuous wave, but a shorter session. So we're kind of trying to hit the sweet spot and not overstimulate and produce too much energy.
Yep.
But if you're going to be using it for the kind of lymphatic drainage, maybe right before bed is the
Mm,
best time if the person can tolerate that and doesn't feel like they're getting too energized,
yeah.
because that
Yeah.
might increase the lymphatic drainage.
Oh, I'll be definitely trying that out. Yeah, and putting it on the 10 hertz probably, and just seeing what happens there. And like so from a point of view, like you've got a lot of learning resources on the app where you can read about the different settings and the different things, right? Um, but just as a quick overview, what would you be using? When would you be using which pulses and which areas of the brain? Give us a bit of an overview of that, if you like, without going
Yeah,
into
so
detail.
s- some people are very much on if you heard of binaural beats, or
Yeah.
you've heard of other kind of stimulations where they pulse things, or the noise, there's different frequencies, and our brain picks up these external stimuli and it tries to replicate that. Now, it doesn't copy it immediately. You still are in control of your own brain. So if you're focused and you're really focused and someone's putting on sleepy music, you're going to stay focused, but you might slightly be distracted. And over a long enough time, you'll probably start to get sleepy. So if we think about it like the same way with light, when you're looking at, 4 to 10 hertz, you're typically in a sleep or a relaxed kind of state of mind. So you can set the helmet up to actually pulse the light at 10 hertz.
Oh.
Equally, you can actually pulse it at 40 hertz. You can go from a whole range up to 1,000, from 0 to 1,000. But we obviously have recommendations, and for extra focus, there's a lot of research on 40 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
And then also Alzheimer's. If you look at a lot of Alzheimer's studies, when they use pulsing in any type of stimulation, 40 hertz seems to be a key area that people are focusing on. So we have preset protocols in the app that you can quickly use, whether it's focus, balance, peace, or glow. And
Mm-hmm.
with those, we'd recommend you use it once or twice a day, depending on how sensitive you are to light. And each session lasts between 3 and 10 minutes. You can make custom protocols as well. So, say you're very into neurofeedback, or you have a clinician that's done a brain map and they know what frequency you're going at, then it might be useful to kind of play around with the custom settings.
Wow. Yeah, that's gold. I've got to get my friend Dr. Elizabeth Harris, who does all the neurofeedback, onto this.
Right.
Well, she's already got it for her dad, but from the entrainment point of view, like actually doing, a measurement on. I suppose you're doing that in research. You'd be using neurofeedback
Yes.
to
In
test what's
in
happening in the brain.
Exactly. So some clinics use it. In some research, we use it. It's actually clinicians who are using it more so. So a lot of clinicians will get the device, but they also have their EEG equipment. So they'll scan the brain before, and then they'll get an idea of, hey, where do they need to increase the coherence or decrease it? What do they need to do? Do they need to target the front, the back, the left, or the right? Should you do 14 hertz here and 16 hertz here, and then swap it over? That's the level of detail some of them go into.
Wow. Mm.
Some actually generate a 3D model of the brain, and they can actually see the different ways the neurons fire within reason, and they'll actually work on certain regions of the brain based on that. So some of these clinicians are really using the device as a tool, and
Wow.
this is the Radiant 1070, to really understand in detail the brain and then customize the device to actually locate the different area and pulse it at a different frequency. And
Wow.
some people say, hey, if you just have the light, you have it covered everywhere, you turn it on, you're going to get all the effect because there's free floating blood in the
Yep.
blood cells, free floating
Yeah.
mitochondria.
That's recent sort of
And
research, isn't it? The free
right,
floating.
so
Yeah.
I think so. It was only a few years ago that
Yeah.
that came out. And then other researchers are saying, hey, no, you really need the targeted approach. So you have systemic versus targeted. And that's, I suppose, the difference with our devices. The Neuronic 1070 is targeted, whereas the Neuronic Light isn't targeted. You can still change the pulse rate, you just can't put it on the different sections.
Wow. So you can't go, okay, left side, I'm going to go. So, yeah. So each of these devices will suit different people and their particular needs. Like if you know that you've got some brain damage in one particular area of the brain and you
Right,
really want to target that, you might want to go for the other device and get that more specific. Especially if you've got
exactly.
someone who can do what do you call it, a QEEG or whatever they call it, a
Yeah.
neurofeedback. It's all gobbledygook to me. I can't. It's pretty intense and that type of stuff, and it is not widely available here. As I said, my friend Elizabeth Harris does it, but she's the only one that I know of in New Zealand that is doing it. I think there's someone in Palmerston as well, but yeah, it's pretty hard for most of us to access that. So yeah, we've got the options now, and the price point is absolutely, to have the price point just makes it so much more accessible for people. So,
Yeah.
and we've got a discount code, Tamati 100, to get an extra $100 off. So if anyone's listening, that'll be in the show notes too below, but make sure you use that. Anything else that we haven't covered, Liam, that you wanted to share? Your company is just super, it's exciting what you guys are doing, like I think it's just fascinating and all the research that's coming out now, like it'd be interesting where you
So
go.
yeah, I let me see what else I can share. I can share with you how some of the packaging looks of the device. We've moved into a more sustainable packaging. So this time it comes in this brown box, recycled cardboard. It's
Hmm.
quite simple design. And then inside the box, if you want to get rid of it, you actually have three little bags. So they're
Hmm.
drawstring bags. And we have the instruction manual that comes in a brown envelope with a sustainability message as well. So we've reduced all the kind of extra packaging. There's only one plastic bag, and the rest is all card. So inside the box, it's very light and it's very easy to move around and put in your luggage. You don't need like a carry case or a hard shell box.
Wow.
Now you can
And it's
simply put it in
safe, so it's safe
your
to
bag.
travel with and do things
Yeah,
with.
exactly.
Very
We've really
portable.
kind of wanted to make it portable, easy to use, because if you have a device or like, something that you have to use every day, you want that ease of use. You don't want it to be a big kind of clunky object that you're carrying around because people live hectic lives. So they want something that's like super easy to just grab, whether it's on the desk, it's on the chair, take it, this in your hand or your pocket, and then you just place that on your head. You can do all your chores while you have it on if it's just for 10 minutes or whatever you kind of want to do. So it's really easy. The other thing I suppose I want to share is the clinical trial that we've been running.
Yeah,
It's nearly
yeah.
coming. We fully recruited for it. So now it's just going to be a few months before we can actually publish the results. And then we have another five different partnerships with other clinics and organizations. So in sometime this year, later this year, you'll see another few publications coming out. So we're really excited about that. And with the app, we now have, like you said, the kind of best opportunity to really understand the users using it, because we're going to be able to have these surveys and get the kind of responses, see what personal goals they have and how it correlates with how they're feeling and the different programs that they're using. So we'll be able to generate a lot of data and use this to further develop the products. We are always looking to develop products further. I hope this isn't the last device that we can reduce the price down. I hope there's more in the future. We don't have a timeline yet, but later this year, hopefully we can release another product. Maybe it'll be a different one, and then the coming years we'll have more iterations for sure.
Yeah, I don't doubt it at all. I don't doubt it. And I don't doubt that the research is going to get more and more conclusive, and we'll be able to be more and more specific with the targeting and what, how deep and how long and how, pulses and all of that sort of good stuff. But even now where it stands with the 10,000 studies, we're pretty far advanced. And this is, absolute gold. So Liam, I want to thank you because it's nearly midnight over in Dubai where you are. And your brain's obviously working quite well. So you obviously you've been using your own device to be able to share all that at midnight. So really, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all these wonderful insights. Everyone who is interested in having an optimal brain, as soon as you can, go out and buy one of these and use that code, get $100 off. That brings the price even down a little bit further. And this is an absolute no-brainer for anybody who can possibly do it. No-brainer.
Lisa, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It was great talking with you again.
Thank you so much, Liam. We'll talk again soon. Thanks so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, hit the notification bell and subscribe, and of course share it with just one person who you think could really benefit from this content. Click here to watch last week's episode, and click here for my website, and click here to watch a video you may not have seen yet.